tutorial on how we determine window stool in a production style house that has the jamb pre-installed with the window. You know, there's a couple different ways to do this, but this is so first off, we're going to measure from this inside of jamb to inside of jamb. We're going to write that measurement down on the jamb and do that for all the windows in the whole house. So the next thing I do is get a scrap piece of window stool. This comes pre-profiled from the factory and sent to the job site. We take it, and the first thing I do is cut a 45-degree angle on that. The next thing I do is take a scrap piece of the window casing. This is what we're going to be using. The standard is to make the setback the thickness of the thickest part of your casing. So in this case, this piece is 11/16 thick at the thickest point. You measure from the front back 11/16. Then from there, you measure back another 11/16, and that gives you the placement of casing. The next thing you want to do is make sure that that outside piece, the outside corner, runs through the miter, like you see there. After you've done that, you can then determine your reveal. We use 1/4 inch, other people use 3/16. Whatever you decide to do is fine. But measure over from the edge of casing to where your reveal will be. That gives you this inside edge of the jamb that's pre-installed with the windows. From there, I usually put a dotted line to represent the inside edge of the jamb. I measure from the longest point of the 45 over to that dashed line, and that gives me a number. In this case, it's 4 5/32 or 4 1/8 heavy, however you want to say it. So each side is going to be 4 1/8 heavy. So then what you do is you say 4 1/8 heavy, and then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. So that ends up being 8 5/16 total. So each window where you measured from inside of jamb to inside of jamb represents X. So you take that number and add 8 5/16, and that gives you the exact left to right measurement, long point to long point, outside of miter to outside of miter of each one of these window stools. So once I have all of the window stools cut long point to long point, I know that 4 1/8 heavy is my setback from the outside edge to the inside of my jamb. So on every one of them, I'll measure 4 1/8 heavy over. I do this line down, and then I've already determined my 11/16 and 11/16 setback, and I'm going to remove this part of the triangle here. A couple different ways you can do it. We usually set up the table saw for whatever this depth ends up being for you. Do it once with the template piece, and then run all of, this is the right hand side, so all the right hand sides of all the window stools we have through the table saw at that exact setting, and then we flip it around and then do the left hand side and run all those through at the same time. Then we bring it back to the miter saw with this standing edge, and we actually cut down straight through this. We'll rock it a little bit forward, and then that triangle will drop out of there. So once we have all the triangle pieces removed from those pieces of window stool, I come out, here's my measurement left to right, inside of jamb to inside of jamb is 26 1/4 heavy. Right here, I take my square and I place it against the drywall and the jamb, and then measure from this point out to the edge of my straight edge that I'm using. That gives me 2 1/4 heavy on this one, and this one gives me 2 1/4 heavy as well. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're not. If they're not, you have to make that determination and change that on your piece as you go through. And next we'll lay this off and get this cut. So now that I have this piece cut, the dimension was 26 1/4 heavy, plus the 8 5/16, or 4 1/8 heavy on each side, is this dimension here, 4 1/8 heavy. This is 4 1/8 heavy. That means that the inside of jamb to inside of jamb is my 26 1/4 heavy like I need. At that point, I had the measurement from the straight edge back at 2 5/16, so I pull 2 5/16, put a mark here. In this case, this window is exactly the same, so I can actually lock my fence to run it at that dimension. If it's a different dimension, you have to connect the dots and then freehand this through the table saw. But basically what we do next, I set the table saw at about a 15-degree back bevel, determine where this sits, and run it through at that 2 5/16 setback from this point here back. So I'm going to finish running this through the table saw, and this will be ready to get popped in the window. So now we have this window stool in the hole. We've got it from jamb to jamb with the back bevel riding across, which puts it nice and snug against the window. The next thing we will do is we'll put an 1/8 inch hole over here and an 1/8 inch hole over here pre-drilled so that we can put a trim screw through the bottom into the bottom of that casing there and the bottom of that casing there. So now we have the casing set with 1/4 inch reveal. I go through and I brad nail this inside edge all the way around. Got a couple of Collins clamps holding that miter. Tack a brad nail through there to lock it with glue. And then we actually wait and come back and nail the outside edge after we're all done. And then we have our screws underneath, holding that nice and tight. One trim screw there. We will then set our apron measurement from outside edge of casing to outside edge of casing. Put 2 returns, we'll pop that on there, and then we'll do our insert on the return of the window stool, and that should be it. So this is the finished product. We've got the apron on, all the returns on. It's just a nicer look than the picture frame molding that's standard in most houses in this price point. So hope this helps, hope this answers any questions that you guys may have had in how to do the window stool with this style of window. So if you have any questions, let me know.